My next speaker is Secretary General, Central Organization of Trade Unions of Kenya. Mr. Atwoli, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Central Organization of Trade Unions Kenya welcomes the Director General's report, which proposes a renewal of the social contract being the pillar that we have all along relied on it in the pursuit of the promise made in the Declaration of Philadelphia on 10th of May 1994. We also, Mr. President, note that a functioning and futuristic social contract is fundamental to the existence of just societies, which we all acknowledge as an imperative and essential ingredient for achieving universal lasting peace. Mr. President, the Central Organization of Trade Unions in Kenya acknowledges that over the years, many people across regions are losing trust in the way governance is exercised, whether at the national level or at the international levels. People feel disillusioned, abandoned, and since they are not benefiting from the gains of our economic progress, this trend is unsustainable and does not portend well for the humanity. Mr. President, the situation is worsened by the lack of focus and attention on social protection of many governments. Just last week, I held a productive meeting with the Assistant Director General of the International Labour Organization for Jobs and Social Protection, Sister Mia Sepo, during her visit in Kenya, where the Central Organization of Trade Unions in Kenya emphasized on the importance of the International Labour Organization to work together with governments to ensure that there is robust investment in social protection infrastructure, not only in Kenya, but in many other countries of the world. Today, more than ever before, Mr. President, we must remind ourselves that the International Labour Organization, as a grantor of social justice, cannot remain indifferent in the face of these challenges. Mr. President, we note that while the International Labour Organization has the institutional means at her disposal to spearhead the renewal of the contract, there might be need for a relook into the bureaucracy of the organization with the aim of boosting effectiveness and productivity. Mr. President, at the same time, we must all remember that social dialogue is our time-tested tool which has for a long time served us well for over the years and helped us to successfully navigate many daunting challenges on crisis in industrial relations practice. Colleagues, we are encouraged by the timing of this discussion, which is happening just a few months before we convene at the Second World Summit for Social Development, which is spearheaded by the United Nations in 2025. It affords us an opportunity to concretize our organization's priorities in order to better and entrench them in the United Nations system. Mr. President, the Central Organization of Trade Unions in Kenya also sees this as an opportunity for the international organization constituents to reflect on the extent to which we have exercised our collective responsibility we owe each other, including the mainstreaming of workers who have not been benefiting from a fair share of economic progress achieved so far. Mr. President, lastly, these categories include women, youth, migrant workers, informal sector workers, and workers in care economy, and dignity-enabled platforms, including gig workers. I must also note that the growth in the informal sector, particularly in Africa, has brought with the challenges and opportunities at the same time. And the Central Organization of Trade Unions in Kenya calls for a renewed focus by not just the International Labour Organization, but also by government, so as to ensure that there are strategic investments in this wandering industry of informal sector, which aims at ensuring the formalization of the informal sector for more provision of employment in Africa, on our continent. Mr. President, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atwoli.